As preppers, we like to try to prepare for every possibility, but are we preparing for if nothing happens? Let's go ahead and talk about it. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Are we prepared for the possibility that nothing will happen and that in general, we will need to continue on this planet for a very long time. Life will continue uninterrupted. Society may continue essentially uninterrupted for a long, long time. If we consider that possibility, does that change the way that we behave today? And I guess that's the question, right? That's what I think of when I think of kind of the combination of the idea of prepping and sustainability. It's not just about prepping in a more sustainable way, although hopefully I do relatively okay at that, although I do still use Mylar bags, but I reuse the crap out of those things. But the vast majority of our prepping is bulk goods that we buy, dry goods that we buy in bulk. They come in paper bags, which we use for mulching in our yard, like underneath soil when we build our beds or whatever, or just torn up into our compost as our brown matter, because I live in Phoenix and I don't have leaves. So that's what we use for that. But just things like that. It's not so much about prepping sustainably, even though I think that that's definitely a really great conversation to have. And I can talk about those steps and more, but I don't know if I have to make a whole video on that. I think that's essentially the main thing, is just buying dry goods in bulk. But it's sort of thinking about daily life and how it affects the future potentially. This is something that has been on our hearts for years, Adam and I both. We have both lived in the Phoenix area now. Well, him for close to 25 years. Me at this point for close to 30 years I've lived in the Phoenix area. And so both of us have seen some really interesting things happen. For instance, there's this place we call Trash Mountain, which is something that makes us stop and pause. Not literally because we're driving, but like stop and pause and think every time we see it. We really love to head out to Fountain Hills. It's like a little half-day trip. It's not too far away, but it's a beautiful drive and there's some beautiful hiking up there. And so that's a place that we like to go. And we take the 87, which is one of the ways to get there, just because it's the best drive. And then as you're driving up the 87 to Fountain Hills, you pass the street. Gilbert is the street that you pass. As soon as you pass that, you see the landfill. It used to be a very small landfill. Like you could still see the landscape, because we both remember this. We remember it. You could see everything, and it was not necessarily like anything that really blocked traffic. Like it did not block traffic. It doesn't still block traffic, but it didn't block your view. It was like, oh, there was a landfill, because if you accidentally had the fresh air on, you could smell it when you drove past, but you couldn't really see it. But over the years, it has gotten taller and taller and taller and taller. It has increased in size at least 5 or 6 times since the very beginning. Like it was just kind of little, and it's gotten so massive. And so now, yes, we call that Trash Mountain. You cannot see anything past it. There's no view anymore. It completely blocks everything. And it's just really interesting to have this visual of trash like exponentially increasing over time. And so it's something that we think about. Definitely not something we're perfect about. I'm not here to shit on anyone or make anyone feel guilty. Adam and I are far from perfect. We aren't even remotely close. I don't even like, there's part of me that sometimes has gone back and wanting to wanted to delete my past zero waste videos because we're so not. There's a lot of ways we do very well. Like I said, buying in bulk, using the paper. We don't use any paper towels. We don't use any paper napkins. We don't use any disposable dishes. My dishwashing liquid is refilled at a local place, although I'm not doing that anymore because that stuff is cheap. I'll talk about that in a second. Like, it's been drastically watered down in the last months, and the last time I purchased it, it's just super liquidy and it doesn't do dishes very well at all anymore. You have to use way more because it's been watered down, and that's no longer a value to me. So I'm switching back to dish blocks, and I'll show you that in a second. So there's like little random things that we've done, but always there are better steps to take, more things that we can do. Ultimately, just reducing waste isn't even necessarily some of the most important stuff that we can do, but it is a great place to start. And I think that that's one of the reasons why the zero waste movement is popular, is because it gives you a feeling of agency and a feeling of power to make a different choice and do something better with your life. But definitely don't get into it with the, Instagram zero waste, Pinterest zero waste in mind. One of my absolute favorite channels, well, just my favorite channel on YouTube, almost, like, not even just for zero waste stuff, but just for the beauty of it and how amazing it makes you feel every time you watch one of the videos, is the channel Fairyland Cottage. And so I will link her channel down below. It's just the most beautiful, amazing thing. She has a lot of sustainability and zero waste videos. And what I love most about her stuff is that it is not, I say it's not Pinterest or Instagram worthy, but it totally is. But it's like she takes old jars and makes it like just so lovely. And you want to live her life so much. She lives in Ireland, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous channel. So I will definitely link that down below for you guys to check out and get some inspiration on some sustainable living and kind of zero waste ideas that are not going to break the bank, because one of the best things that we can do to be zero waste is to use what we have already, and like to only replace things as you need to replace them. And then other things like, like I've already mentioned, eliminating disposables in your life. For me personally, the elimination of disposables really began not necessarily with the Trash Mountain thing, but kind of earlier, back when in the day, like I have alluded to on the channel many times, that Adam and I had a couple of years where we were like extremely, like spectacularly short on money. Borderline poor. It was a very difficult time that we went through. And it just was a terrible time financially for us. And I can distinctly remember the day, I was buying Ziploc bags for my son and to replace for my son's lunches and my husband's lunches, and throwing it into the cart and looking at the cart and realizing I'm about to spend $12 on stuff I'm going to throw away. Essentially, I am almost literally spying. I might as well be throwing my dollars into the trash can. And so I began a journey of eliminating every single disposable thing. We ended up with reusable straws before reusable straws were even really like a thing, again, that you could see on Instagram. It might have been even before Instagram was a thing. Weird, huh? To even think of that. I had to order them from eBay, because back in the day, eBay was the place where you got weird stuff, not Amazon. But yeah, I replaced all of our straws with reusable straws. I had to track down straw brushes and things like that. Originally, it was a budget decision more than an environmental decision, but the more I got involved in the research, the more it became really apparent to me that this is something that is important to me and I want to do, not just to save money, but to help perpetuate the beauty of our planet, to hopefully not contribute to Trash Mountain as much as possible. So we're definitely not perfect though. Since the birth of my daughter, I've definitely gotten more lax on a lot of things, kind of necessarily, as things have become overwhelming. I was nursing all day and all night. I did not have time to do all of the kinds of food preparation that I used to do. And so things started coming in that we had kind of gotten rid of: tons of frozen vegetables, tons of plastic, tons of snack foods, tons of plastic. Absolutely contributing our fair share to Trash Mountain in these last few years, just from lack of time. And so, again, this is not about judging anyone or shooting on anyone in any way. This is about sort of trying to address sustainability in as real a way as possible. And so, for instance, one of the solutions that I had come up with, because I did start buying bread from the store again for a little while, like after Sage was born, but that was one of the first things that I sort of took back, because I started making all of our bread years and years ago, again, for budget reasons, but also because a giant bag of flour was like so much cheaper than bread. But also just because I could control the ingredients. I didn't have to read labels to make sure that there were no allergens for my son. And then eventually, because we were vegan, I didn't have to read any labels. I could just make it. But one of the things that I did was I found a really great bread machine recipe. I got a bread machine recently. I actually started sourdough. You don't have to need sourdough. That's a really easy bread to get into, weirdly enough. People think that sourdough is such a mystery. I have a video down below that shows you my sourdough process. Even though it has changed just a hair, it's essentially the same. I'll link that down below, where you can basically make all your zero waste bread for virtually no hands-on time. But I got a bread machine off of Facebook Marketplace for like $20. And now I use that to knead dough, and I just make a yeast bread now. And then the yeast even I bought in bulk on Azure Standard. It just came in paper, and I've repackaged it into little jars I put in my fridge. And so that even is a very low waste way and also very cheap way to buy yeast. And I still am making our bread, but I'm not doing the sourdough process, but I wanted to get back into that again too. And there's just like little changes and little things that you can do. Buying secondhand, it's actually, I think personally, a lot of sustainability, a lot of environmentalism is actually cheaper. It's a cheaper way to live in a lot of ways. I also think the old ways, right? The ways of our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, depending on your age, or these are the ways that were less wasteful. This was the generation that used to wash out their soda bottles and bring them back to the store, right? Actually, I remember doing that as a kid, bringing back soda bottles to get, your whatever, 40 or 50 cents, and then you'd go spend it all on candy, right? I remember this. And it's like, we don't live in that world anymore. And I guess that's also part of the point, is that the systems that are not really they're not really set up in such a way that encourages sustainable living or makes it easy. But there are ways, and if we look and we like really think about it and we really care, I think that we can find some stuff. But yeah, it's like growing your own vegetables, canning your own vegetables, or dehydrating your own vegetables, stuff like that. I mean, obviously that is a way of being zero waste, preserving your own and not buying it from the store in a package, but having your own stuff, or buying package free from a farmer's market or whatever. A lot of things are possible. If you are passionate about this and you think that this is something that you really care about, but you say, no, really, I don't have any money to start this, that's totally fine. I'd say, if you get a little bit, thrift stores are your friend. For instance, I mentioned we use all cloth napkins. All of my cloth napkins were purchased at a thrift store, at Goodwill. I got every single one of those packs of napkins for like 50% off. I think I spent less than $5 on a giant pile of cloth napkins that I have over by our table. So there are possibilities for doing it really inexpensively, but I would encourage you, maybe if you do nothing else, how about start with food waste? For me personally, this ends up being why, for a while, if you've been watching the channel for a while, I was doing meal planning videos, and I actually stopped those because I stopped meal planning. I need to come up with some sort of hybrid system, but I found myself suddenly throwing food away. And I was just noticing, I'm scraping a lot of Tupperware containers into the trash. And this is not my reality. Like food waste has been one of the ways that I have saved money and cut down on our trash, trying not to throw food away. It feels to me like one of the worst sins to throw food away. Knowing that there are people who could be using it, like I hate that so much. And so I was like starting to notice I'm throwing food away. What is going on? And I realized because I was meal planning, and so every single night had a set item. And then I was assuming leftovers would be taken for lunches, but they're not always taken for lunches. And then I sometimes will forget about something in the back. And then because I had a meal plan, the next night there was a plan for what I was eating that night. I was making that meal rather than doing what I usually do, which is open the fridge and look and see what do I need to use up? What can I mix? Is there a leftover here that I can turn into a soup? Are there like 2 soup leftovers that I can mix together to make super soup? You know, and using up my food leftovers. And so once I realized that that's what was happening, I was like, okay, I'm going to quit meal planning for now. I still did learn a lot. I still kind of keep it in the back of my mind, like the themed days. If I don't know what to make, I can kind of go back to what I was making, but I need to figure out some sort of hybrid system for maybe 1 week of meal planning, 1 week off, or something like that. I don't know. But regardless, if you want to begin with food waste, I think a great way to do that is to just look, like really pay attention to produce. They say that the produce drawer is a place where good intentions go to die. And I think that that's kind of funny because it's sort of true. But if we can pay a lot of really close attention to what's going on in those produce drawers, especially, or just with produce in general. And then if you do have a dehydrator, if you don't have a dehydrator, you might be able to pick one up used for pretty cheap, like a Nesco. All my Nescos I have ever purchased were used. But if you have a dehydrator, go ahead and dehydrate stuff. So like this is recently, like I actually just did that. Let me insert a clip of my dehydrator trays. And so the result of those tomatoes is here. I'm gonna let these condition, which means they're gonna sit in this jar, and I'll watch for condensation. If I don't see any condensation, my plan for these is to turn them into a powder to begin to put into, you know, mixes as needed or whatever. And so this is just because some tomatoes started going wrinkly on my counter and I noticed it and I thought, I should probably get those dehydrated before they go bad. I ended up throwing away 5 tomatoes out of all of the tomatoes that I had out. And so I saved a whole bunch, you know, that tray of tomatoes, I saved a whole bunch from ending up in the garbage because these were not organic tomatoes, and that's kind of the things. I don't compost things that are not organic, and so I'm not perfect. I don't always buy organic. It depends upon availability and price. Honestly, really, it's still a major concern of mine. And so also with these greens, those greens that you saw, those 3 big trays of greens, ended up coming down into this. I could scrunch it up even more. My favorite way to use these is to scrunch them up into soups, and then they basically go in there almost like they're a spice, like a basil or something. And so you don't register them when you're eating, but you have a ton of greens in your soup. But just these 2 things, just recently I diverted some food waste, and now it's not going to get wasted and we're going to eat it. So focusing on making sure that you're not wasting food, either by eating your leftovers or by taking steps to preserve maybe some produce that might be going bad in your fridge. That is a great way to prevent waste. So I don't know, these are just some thoughts. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this whole thing. Definitely let me know down in the comments below, like, is there anything you can think of? But I think I mentioned my dish stuff, so I wanted to show you guys. I did just do a haul, or not a haul, I just did an order from Earth Hero, and this is how it comes. And I'm going to open this up so that you guys can see that sometimes you can shop with more sustainable brands, and then that can also help to reduce your waste, because as far as I know, they don't really do any plastic packaging, but we're going to see. Let's open this box up and take a look. All right, here's the packaging. They do include a little flyer, but it's uncoated paper, so this is absolutely recyclable. There's your receipt, and it's not like a sticker. it's just paper. And then obviously there's some craft paper here. I actually like to use this. This is really handy. It's right before Christmas. I like to take these packaging paper internals and I wrap presents with them. I do have some Christmas gift wrap, but that's fantastic, especially for something you know it's just going to get ripped off. And then you can go ahead and recycle it, you know, because it's uncoated paper. What I also really love to do is draw on them. Like I'll do pretty drawings and stamp and stuff like that to try to make the paper prettier for anybody who's like really concerned with that. So here's the inside. No other extraneous packaging, which I love. And so basically, obviously, I have ordered refill brushes for my dish brush. I ordered a few years ago, and I've only gone through 2 heads in like, I want to say 3 or 4 years. I will find the original video where I bought, because there's a video on the channel where I bought the brushes, the brush and the 2 original brush heads. And so these just get tossed into compost when they're done. And so that's a great way to cut waste too, because you're not producing plastic brushes, or, you know, and I feel like these last longer than the plastic ones did. I seem to recall having to purchase new plastic dish brushes often when I used to use plastic ones. This is just really good, and they're still going strong. And again, I've only used 2 of these heads, and they used to be $5 each, now they're $6 each. So it can be kind of pricey to start, but I think over the course of however many years it's been, only using 2 of these heads is cheaper than the plastic brushes used to be when I was going through those. And then here's an example of realizing something with like it was just a moment like I hadn't thought of before, that Band-Aids are waste. And I didn't think about it. So these are home compostable Band-Aids. And so basically I now have some Band-Aids for boo-boos that are compostable in your home. And so these are bigger ones and these are smaller ones. And then the packaging itself, if I'm remembering correctly, is at least, if it's not compostable, you know, it's all paper. So these I can rip up and still throw into our yard. I do it anyway. And so yeah, some Band-Aids, a few packs of Band-Aids that I got, because it's getting to that time to replenish some Band-Aids. And so I just bought these, and I will report as to how they work. Actually, well, why don't I just go ahead and pop this open and then show you what they look like inside. Although I don't want to open it because they're sterile until you open it. But apparently from the reviews and the pictures, this, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Earth Hero. I have no relationship with them or any of these things that I'm about to share with you. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I don't. But yeah, each one of these is sterile inside until it's opened. But oh yeah, they are very fabric-y. That's surprising. So that was one of the reviews, is that they're kind of like fabric Band-Aids, which was a surprising thing to the person reviewing. And I admit I'm also surprised by that. They feel amazing. We'll see how they do. And so the final thing that I got from Earth Hero was 2 blocks of dish soap. I don't know if I talked about it in this take or not. I've taken several takes. But yes, I'm back to dish blocks over my refillable zero waste dish blocks, just because the zero waste refill I was getting definitely decreased in quality. And so here it's just rolled up in paper, 2 blocks with no extra packaging. And so that is just fantastic. So being able to purchase from companies like this, knowing that they exist, I'm just going to set this aside. Knowing that they exist is a huge help. And then just purchasing things a little at a time, as needed. It doesn't have to be this complete overhaul of your life. Obviously, like for instance with the Band-Aids, I'm not going, like we have a few left. I am not going to toss those into this trash just because I have the new fancy zero waste ones. We will go ahead and use those up. And then once they're used up, we can switch. And then hopefully these are good. One final thing, because one of the things that I started doing recently I talked to you about Trash Mountain. I've been thinking about it again. Sort of thinking about trying to figure out how can I put this stuff more back into my life. Because again, it's a process. It is a process that I think isn't kind of an organic process that we go through a little bit at a time. If we're living authentically, life is a process, right? Like, I'm not over here trying to pretend that we have everything totally figured out or together as far as sustainable stuff goes. But there's certain things that I notice and try to take action on when I notice it. So I decided, as a means of trying to figure out where does most of our waste come from, I started keeping a list of the things that I was throwing away. And so one of the main things that I noticed, of course, was frozen vegetable packages. And I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to deal with that. If I'm totally honest with you, I still don't really, just with the amount of produce that we eat, I still don't believe that I have the time or the energy to go back to purchasing like fresh broccoli, for instance, and then like making sure it gets used before it goes bad. Because one of the things that frozen vegetables, one of the problems that solves, it produces plastic waste, but it doesn't produce food waste, right? Because that broccoli stays good for as long as it's in the freezer. I mean, obviously up to a certain point, but I have no problem we have never like languished frozen vegetables and thrown them away due to freezer burn. And so it does cut food waste. And so it's kind of like this thing where it's like, if I started going back to all fresh, would I end up with more food waste? And the answer is almost certainly, because of the way in which we live our lives. And so, yeah, that all of these things are questions of like pluses and minuses and checks and balances. And it's a question that only you can answer for yourself in your own life. And so the reason I'm sharing these things is, again, not to shit on you or make you feel guilty or try to make myself look good. Because honestly, I'm definitely not trying to do that. It's to try to maybe get the wheels turning, to sort of notice and think about ways that maybe you could improve your own situation. Like I'm trying to improve our situation in the ways that I feel that I can. And so one of the things I also noticed, which was funny, so it's frozen vegetable containers, our plant milk containers, because those are no longer recyclable, and any kind of snack bags, like from chips or whatever, those. But I was thinking, okay, that's basically our trash, is just those like three things, basically. But I ripping open a paper towel, not a paper towel, because we don't use paper towels. Well, I have some for like emergency messes that are truly disgusting. And I don't know if I have to like explain to you what I mean. Like I'm not using a cloth on certain things they get a paper towel. And so I just have like one pack of paper towels that we have had for years and years and years. It was a Costco pack of paper towels, and it was back before they shrunk the paper towels. I think we've used 2 rolls in I don't even know how many years, because again, this is just not something that we do. Regardless, toilet paper, I was unwrapping toilet paper to refill in my bathroom to put my toilet paper there, which we also get at Costco. And then I threw that plastic bag away and I went, oh, there's another one. And I had literally just watched a video where yet another person was talking about who gives a crap, which I will show you right now. I got my first order of the who gives a crap TV. So we are almost down to our stash. So with our toilet paper stash, I like to keep 2 Costco-sized packs of toilet paper on hand at all times as our spare. And so the ones that we don't get into unless absolutely necessary. So to replace our toilet paper this time, I set up a subscription with Who Gives a Crap, and I will link it down below. And like I said, I am not affiliated with them. I also have not tested this yet. I don't know if this works. Those dish blocks work really well. These brushes work really well. The Band-Aids, I don't know. I haven't tested them yet. And I will tell you too, with the Who Gives a Crap, I haven't tested it yet. However, I'm willing. And so I figured I would cut this open and pull out a roll of the toilet paper and tell you what I think of it. Okay, that is adorable. It is super cute. Yeah, there's a lot to love about this company. And like I said before, I'm not affiliated. The link I'm leaving below is just a link to the website. I'm not getting anything from it. But yeah, let me unwrap one of these and like tell you what I think. So the question of price comes up, of course, too. According to the math I did, sheet for sheet, this box represents 3 times as much toilet paper as I was purchasing in the big pack of Costco for about 2.5 times the price. So it's not a major savings, but it's potentially a bit of a savings. So even this swap, though it seemed expensive on like the... No, it's only twice as expensive. Just a little over twice as expensive. Because if the Charmin is typically like $28, this is going to be $68. So you do the math. I don't feel like doing math. I don't like to do math on camera. Basically, but even this first order was $58 because I got $10 off. So I think you can get that deal. And again, I'm not associated with them, and the deal is not contingent upon my link. Just find it. You should be able to find it on there. But yeah, sheet for sheet, this is supposed to be more toilet paper than like 3 times as much toilet paper as the Charmin. And so I'm tentatively excited about it, and also excited about the fact that I will not be throwing away plastic contributing to Trash Mountain. And so this, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know if it's like recyclable or compostable. I will need to figure that out. And so yeah, let's go ahead and give this a look. Oh yeah, it definitely feels nice and soft. It is not nearly as, no, it's definitely not nearly as cushy as Charmin. I don't think Adam is going to like this, if I'm totally honest with you. He's not going to be a fan of that. Because he uses, we use tissue paper for his nose too. Like, mainly he uses handkerchiefs, but if he gets a really bad allergy attack or some really bad sinus thing, the handkerchiefs won't keep up, and so he switches to TB. He's not going to be a fan of that. Regardless, we have this now, and so I am going to be figuring out if this is going to be something that we're going to continue. Like I said, this is not tested, but if this is something that you really care about, and you would like the option of plastic-free toilet paper, which is also really great company. They donate, apparently, 50% of all profits to building toilets and helping people, you know, have sanitary bathroom facilities, basically. And if something like that really matters to you, then I'm leaving the link down below, but again, completely untested. And we're going to have to see how long it lasts, because sheet for sheet is great. Like, that's great to do the math and figure that out. But if it doesn't last as long as the Charmin, we're going to have some questions to weigh budget-wise. But yeah, anyway. I guess that's just sort of like, it turned into a mini haul, but just some thoughts. I don't know if any of that was helpful to you. If you'd like to continue the conversation down below, it's just something that I think about. I war a lot of times with my choices and what I'm doing in various areas of my life, trying really hard to make the best choices for the most amount of people involved. I've talked about this before too, right? Where sometimes it feels like for instance with veganism, the 2 main reasons I'm vegan are obviously for the animals, but also for the planet. Those are my 2 primary reasons. And so oftentimes I feel like those reasons war with each other. Like, making a decision that's good for an animal is sometimes not necessarily the best decision for the planet. For instance, the one that I keep thinking about over and over again is wool. And this is still something that I think about. Like, in order to protect a sheep, am I purchasing a synthetic jacket, which ends up harming animals like forever, because that synthetic is never going to go away. The end of life is that it does not break down. So have I really protected animals by choosing a synthetic over a natural material? And that, so stuff like that, I just don't know. I honestly can't tell you what the answer to that question is. So yeah, things like that. It's something that I'm constantly thinking about, and kind of, again, like I said, I think if you're living authentically, life is a process, and you're always trying to figure out the best choices. And I think it's better to have questions than to assume that you have all the answers. And so yeah, anyway, I guess that's it. So I don't know if that was helpful to you at all. If you got anything out of that, or if you have any ideas for yourself about your own life and sustainability options that you, or sustainability things that you're going to potentially implement, or if you're going to try the toilet paper, or if you have tried the toilet paper, what's your opinion on it? I'd love that. I'd love to know that. Yeah, just let me know anything in the comments down below. And as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys later. Bye. Hi. Oh, funny, your beard matches my hair now. Anyway, I opened the Who Gives a Crap, so thought you'd want to react to it.
That's somewhat disappointing.
Yeah, I knew you weren't gonna like it.
He's in my face more than he's on my butt, so that's not terrible.
Yeah, I know. I was disappointed too when I opened it. I felt it, and I was like, "Oh no!"
I mean, the rolls are definitely a lot smaller than other ones we get.
Yeah, well, it's so much thinner.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is like, is it gonna even last as long? Because technically, it's like 3 times as many sheets as are in the Charmin, but are we gonna have to use 3 times as much?
Right.
Yeah. So that's the question. Anyway, I guess we'll see. I guess in a few months we'll be able to report on who gives a crap and whether we give a crap about it.
Indeed.
Yes. Okay.